Hello, and welcome to the Georgia Transplant Fundraising for Transplant Workshop. Please note if you have any of the older applications or any of the older materials, the old addresses are incorrect. The only correct address for Georgia Transplant Foundation is 2201 Macy Drive, Roswell, Georgia 30076. Why fundraise? You should want to fundraise for the simple fact that it makes sense for people who are undertaking the transplant journey to fundraise in advance to prepare themselves for their post-transplant needs. You're going to be on these meds for the rest of your life, and you want to make sure you can take care of the bills. You have insurance limits and deductibles, no prescription medication coverage in some cases. Other cases have limited prescription medication coverage. You will always have copay costs, and fundraising can help you prepare for monthly budget deficits. Fundraising provides a safety net for those things that you know are going to happen, things like medications, copays, premiums, and they also provide a safety net for things that you can't easily predict, like loss of job or insurance or a change in marital status. It also helps you to prepare in advance for the fact that even those with the best health insurance policies often have a good reason to fundraise in that they have either their employer health care plan, and that has its own limitations, or private policies, which have the limitations of their own. Currently, if you have Medicare Parts A, B, and D, these are the costs that you can expect to incur if you have your transplant in 2020. These costs do change every year. If you have Medicaid, remember that you will need to meet state eligibility guidelines at all times. We here in Georgia are really lucky. If you've watched any of the prescription drug commercials, I'm sure you've seen if you are not able to afford your medication, AstraZeneca may be able to help. And yes, AstraZeneca may be able to help, but it does have a long process to that assistance. Our medication access program out of Augusta helps you with navigating that system every year, and it helps you to do so for all your meds, not just one company. We also have the Transplant Fundraising Program. It's a program to help you prepare financially for the ongoing cost of your post-transplant needs. We do this by offering two types of accounts, the matched and the unmatched. The matched account gives you 1 year to raise up to $10,000, which would be eligible for the matching funds. There is a fee, but if you raise the entire $10,000, which is what would be eligible for match, we never take more than $300. Should you be enrolled in the program for 20 years, we will never take more than the $300. It is not a recurring fee. The unmatched accounts have a similar fee, and we never take more than $300. It's a great fundraising tool for those people who live outside the state of Georgia but are being transplanted in Georgia. It is also really good for those people who want to fundraise but may not exhibit a great financial need. If you are applying for the Georgia Transplant Foundation, we need 3 things and the application itself for your application to be complete. That is proof of Georgia residency for 6 months for the client, proof of insurance for the client, and proof of household income for all adults in the household. If you apply for our program, you can see here what happens once we've received your completed application. You will receive your welcome packet. The welcome packet includes things like, as you see here, that help you to navigate the program. Please note that blue envelopes are for client use only. With a matched account, the primary usage of your funds are your medications and insurance premiums. Only $1,000 of what you raise can be used for other transplant-related expenses. Please speak with your social worker at your time of transplant about the Georgia Transplant Foundation financial assistance programs for things like housing and travel expenses. If you have an unmatched account, you can use your funds a bit more broadly. However, everything still can only be used for transplant related medical expenses. Many of you have been asked to create a transplant plan. Just remember, your transplant plan isn't always about money. It is a successful plan for how you plan to live with your transplanted organ. Now that you know why you fundraise, let's talk about how. In fundraising, planning is key. So step one, look at what you have. Do you have Medicare or do you have Medicaid? Do you have both? If you have insurance, how do you have your insurance? Because how you have your insurance, it tells you how you can lose your insurance. Once you know what you have, think about all the things that your transplant team has said that you will need, such as how long will you have to remain near your transplant center post-transplant? How often will you have to return for your post-transplant clinic visits? What are the anticipated costs of your medication per month in the first year and thereafter? Once you know what is expected of you and you know what you have, you can identify your needs. As soon as you know what you need, you should begin to explore your resources. Resources aren't only monetary. The gifts and talents of your friends and family are also resources that can help you in fundraising. Once you've examined all that, it's time to develop a plan. We tried to drill it down to 4 simple steps for you. First, build a team to support you. Second, learn to tell your story. Third, develop an appeal letter and design an event that is perfect for you. We build teams because it's easier to ask on behalf of others than it is to ask for ourselves. You also use the team to broaden your circle of supporters. You should choose people who don't live in your household because those in your household are doing everything you're doing backwards and in high heels. So if possible, choose your team members from others people who are close to you and invested in your success. You want to choose people who are reliable, choose people who you can count on, choose people who you can trust. The makeup of the team, you should have a team leader. That person should be organized and they should be diplomatic. You should need a team treasurer. That is someone who is good with money and someone who is honest about money. If you plan on doing more than one event, you should probably have someone to plan each event as well as someone who manages both of the different coordinators. That way nobody gets burned out and you have somebody who knows each step, what everything is going on and which balls are in the air. Publicity coordinators. We live in a world where it is necessary to know how to navigate social media. And unfortunately, we still live in a world where you also still have to know how to do a press release. Sometimes you can find both those things in one person. Sometimes you need two. If you need to, that is perfectly fine. That's why we have them both up there. If you can find one, that's great. Your appeal letter is still going to be your golden ticket. It is the easiest way to raise funds from people who know you. And your appeal letter coordinator is the person who knows what letters are going out and what's coming back in. Part of your team will also be those who volunteer to help you and those who donate to your events and cause. You will find them by exploring those you know and those who know you. Look around your community and see who you have a connection with. Create connections through your volunteers. Educate them about the patient. Educate them about the cost of transplant. Let them know where the money is going. Say, hey, I have a matched account at Georgia Transplant Foundation. That means everything I raise is being matched dollar for dollar up to $10,000. And Georgia Transplant Foundation manages my account for me. You can also educate them on coverage gaps. Some people may wonder, well, doesn't your insurance cover the transplant? And you can assure them, or your volunteers can assure them, yes, my insurance does cover a lot. However, I am trying to be proactive and make sure that I cover any gaps. Thank your volunteers. Excuse me. Thank your volunteers. No one owes you anything, so thank them for everything they do for you. However, you should also know that you never know who feels like they can pay a debt forward by helping you. Allow them to do so. Make people feel appreciated. That's for two reasons. One, if they're doing something nice for you, you should appreciate them. And two, if you make them feel appreciated, they are more likely to help you again later. Keep them updated on your fundraising goals because, hey, you never know. At some point, they may be like, you know what? I couldn't give before, but I can give now. Let me get you over this hump, or let me get you closer to your goal. And also keep them updated on your transplant status. We had a young lady who had a very quick heart transplant. Her mother kept her church ladies up to date on her transplant status and when she was coming home. And when she got out of the hospital, they met her at her door with a bunch of casseroles and heart healthy foods that she could freeze and eat later because it was their way of helping out. So you never know. Step two is learn to tell your story. Let people know who you are. Remind them how they might know you. Make a connection with them. Explain what type of transplant you need. People don't always know that you can have all these different kinds of transplant: liver, kidney, lungs, heart. They only really know what they see on Grey's Anatomy or on daytime television. So let them know what kind of transplant you need. If you do have a need for transplant, you can let them know the cause of that, but be positive and be honest. State your need, whether it be funds or a living donor, or funds and a living donor. Tell people what you need to be able to continue your journey. Remind them that you never expected to need a transplant and that it can happen to anyone. And by anyone, we mean it can happen to them as well. Fact sheets are a great takeaway tool for others and a good way for you to communicate your needs with people. You would just create 3-section fact sheet that tells about your specific needs, facts about transplant, and in the lower section you can mention GTF and our organization history for credibility, and of course the incentive of the match. Your appeal letter. In creating an appeal letter, it is simply a personal request campaign to raise funds from people who know you. It's just a letter asking for their help, and it costs about 85 cents to send out each paper letter, and you get a great return. $10, $15, $20 are usually about the lowest. Remember, your friends and family want to help, so let them send letters on your behalf to those they know. Two reasons for that. One is it gets you a different pool of donors, and two, they know you in a way different from how you know you. They will speak to the you that they know, and a lot of times people see us, our friends and family see us far more beautifully than we see ourselves. And they will speak about us in better ways than we will speak about ourselves. So if you allow them to help you with this, chances are good that they're going to write a letter that will make connections that will make people give more. In your fundraising appeal letter, you should tell your story. Provide brief information about the illness causing the need for transplant. Show the cost associated with transplant. Mention GTS fundraising program for credibility and incentive of the matching funds. And don't forget, you just need to ask. Make a request for support. Provide directions for giving and include a return addressed envelope. If you do choose to include the return addressed envelope, you do not need to put a stamp on it. If people are going to donate, they will do so by putting a stamp on it themselves, and if they're not going to donate, unfortunately, that's 55 cents down the drain. Use photos whenever possible. Photos of the client with a child, photo of the client with a dog. Those are all great ways to increase your fundraising appeal through the letter. Here's an example of a client's letter. It's based on the template available in your TFP manual. Here's an example of the appeal letter in brochure format. You just use Microsoft Publisher to get the proper layout. You can find fun paper pre-printed at copy stores. And if you have a local print shop, you may be able to get them to give you the printing cost as a donation. Here's another example. This one is a trifold brochure. As you can see, it includes pictures of the family, pictures of the client, and it tells all 3 ways to give. Show off your cleverness with your letter. Remind people how awesome you are, and they will want to help more. There are times of the year that people are just more likely to give. Let them know during those times what your needs are. You can use a photo in all your requests. It reminds people who you are. Those we love see us differently than we see ourselves. Allow them to help you by sending out letters on your behalf. Even if you are unable to build a team, you can still successfully raise funds. Just keep it simple and get the word out as much as you're able to. Another great way to get the word out is business cards. You can give them out wherever you are, and your friends and family can do the same. Make sure that your cards show all 3 ways to give. That's they can give by sending it to your home address, they can give by sending it to Georgia Transplant Foundation's address, or they can give through your website. Here's an example of a business card with a great picture, and it tells how to give through the website. Now, as I've mentioned, you can opt into, as I've mentioned the website several times, let me tell you a bit about them. You can opt into having a website and personalize it with your story, your photos, and talk about your fundraising events. Everyone who enrolls in the TFP program is able to get a website, and it allows people to make donations online with their credit or debit cards. Use it to tell your story and connect with friends and family around the world. As you can see, there are several benefits to having one of the sites. It lets others donate their way. You're able to get the word out around the world, and there are less fees associated with our sites than there are with GoFundMe and other such websites. In planning your fundraising efforts, please remember your goal is to raise funds, to raise as much money as possible with as little outlay of cost as possible. There are 2 types of fundraising, traditional and non-traditional. Non-traditional fundraising are ideas that are not events, but they can really get you a lot of funds, and they can often involve a group in helping you fundraise. So things like your appeal letter, your religious organization supported efforts, fun days at work or at restaurants, and the blessing calendar. Here's an example of the blessing calendar. You can always use ours, or you can download an empty calendar at Windward, put in your own fun ways to give, print on a large label, slap that bad boy in a brown paper bag, and give out to a group before the start of the month, and then take it up after the end of the month. This is a similar campaign in that you will print the label on the lunch bags, print out the label on, I'm sorry, print out the label, put it on lunch bags, give it to a group, and then take it up. Campaign of Save Your Change, Change Your Life is done seasonally, so they get them 4 times a year when the seasons change. For all of them, you will end up with a large amount of change, and you can use the Coinstar machines at credit unions for less fees than the ones in the grocery stores. When you are doing group fundraising, it's just a way for a group to work with a group of people you know to raise funds for your account. Utilize fundraisers they already have in place, or you can use the group to come up with new and fun ideas. Traditional fundraising events do take a lot more planning. They need to be true to who you are, they need to appeal to your community at large, and they need to get high attendance. There are some advantages and challenges to doing the very traditional events-based fundraising, and here they are. Here are some examples of events you might want to try if you do choose to do an event. Getting started can be daunting, but here's how. Choose the event that's right for you. Brainstorm an event that appeals to your friends, family, and community. Utilize personal connections for donations and think about multiple ways to make money in each event. Plan effective advertising and strategize on how to maximize attendance. Tell your story effectively. Give yourself time to plan. Here's our planning guide, and as you can see, we ask you to take time to think of different ways you can make money in each event. Think about how long it will take you to plan the event. If you are the family planner and you've planned birthday parties, weddings, etc., take the amount of time you think it'll plan this event and double it. If you have never planned so much as a child's first birthday party, take the amount of time you think it's going to take to plan this event and triple it. You want to give yourself time to A, think things through, and B, to gain donations of larger items and larger ticket items so that you don't have to outlay costs so much up front. You also want to think about what do you need to consider in setting the date? Do you need to think about holidays? Do you need to think about venue? What's the first thing you need to think about in planning this event? Is it the venue? I will say often, if you know where you want to have something and you're willing to be very flexible on your date, sometimes you can get a discount on the venue cost, and that's always beneficial. List key people to know. Good people to know are people who can get you two things: donations and volunteers. Those are the key people you need to know. There are others and people who can get you publicity, things like that. How many volunteers will you need? If you think you need 10 volunteers, plan for 15. Life happens, and even the most well-intentioned person may have a blowout on 85 or get stuck in traffic. If you have 15 volunteers scheduled and only 10 show up, you're good. If you have 15 scheduled and all 15 show up, you can double people up on certain activities. However, if you need 10 volunteers and only 5 show up, that becomes problematic. Now, what is the most important item you need donated? Usually that's going to be the most expensive one. How should the event be advertised? You want to advertise the event in such a way that it mirrors what the event is. You aren't going to advertise a Huffy bike ride at a Harley bike store. So think about how the event should be advertised. Capitalize on special days. There are special days of every year that people are more likely to help you out, and you can capitalize on this to spawn donations and often discounts. Advertising is key, and here are publicity ideas to help you succeed. Social media and networking. Article in a local paper before your event. Flyers in strategic locations also help. Your press release. If you're going to use a press release to help you get the word out, you need to contact newspapers at least 8 weeks in advance. Include your story. Include all the facts that you know about this and about the current event and any upcoming events as well. Thank the community for their support, and you can mention GTF for credibility and the incentive of the match. Here's a great example of a feature story that can be gained by sending in a well-done press release. But do not underestimate the free publicity of local advertising. Every town has a local publication that people can read for free while waiting at a pizza place or while getting their tires rotated or their oil changed. These things get the word out to a lot of people in your community, and they can be greatly beneficial. Your religious organization supported efforts. Many people can also use the weekly bulletins at their church or place of worship to get the word out about fundraising. And now many churches have taken these digital, so even in these times, people are still able to access these bulletins and read them through. Flyers in strategic locations, you want to make sure that you put them someplace where people will see them, where people have funds, and where people have the time to look at them. I will say this, there are two types of locations. One will get you donations and attendees, and the other will get you volunteers. So think it through. If you're going to put it where people have a good heart but not a lot of money, that'll gain you volunteers. If you put it where people have money and time, that will also gain you donors and attendees. Your storyboard. A storyboard is a great fundraising tool. It tells your story when you yourself are not able to otherwise engage. They're very easy to make in Word, and it's just 4 text boxes and a banner box across the top. You can use those as your fact sheet, or you can blow it up and put it on a board and laminate it, and it costs around $30. The snowball effect in fundraising is it's one of the greatest things that can happen. The smallest start can snowball into something amazing. This is Miss Kathy. She didn't have a team. She wasn't sure what she would do to start fundraising. So she was advised to ask the person that she would go to in the middle of the night if something went wrong. Well, she did exactly that. And Miss Betty, her next door neighbor, was able to get her started with a yard sale at Miss Betty's church. Well, the church happened to be next door to a fire station. The firemen came out, they talked to some of the volunteers and learned about Miss Kathy's story. Well, every year those firefighters did a chili cook-off. Well, that year they decided to give Miss Kathy the proceeds of their chili cook-off. Well, at the chili cook-off, one of the gentlemen who had made one of the vats of chili was working for one of those companies that create large play structures for backyards, and he got his boss to raffle one off to benefit Miss Kathy. So she went from having no clue how to start to just a yard sale and ballooned up before she knew it to 3 events that had earned her all she needed to fundraise for her transplant. Another young lady went to a church in South Atlanta, and she decided that to do her fundraising, she was going to sell wrapping paper outside of the church and take advantage of the nearby Christmas holiday. Well, she managed to parlay that into a meeting with one of the deacons outside of the church while she was selling the wrapping paper, and he happened to own several McDonald's franchises. Not only that, but he was also a member of a fraternal order of Black McDonald's franchise owners of the greater metropolitan Atlanta area. They owned a lot of McDonald's around the area. And doing drink nights at all of the different McDonald's earned her more than $10,000. So you never know when the smallest start can snowball into something amazing. Food events. When the world resumes functioning, food events can be a fun and somewhat more easy way to rally your community in supporting your fundraising efforts. You can do cook-offs, specialty food dinners, chef competitions, dinner theaters, or other forms of entertainment with a food theme. There are always multiple ways to make money in a single event. So no matter what kind of event you choose to have, the best thing you can do is create multiple ways to make money in that event. Here are some suggestions. If you choose to do the silent auction, get donated items and services to auction off. Craft items, specialty items, and specialty beauty services work well for this. Make sure you include the contact information column, and you also want to tell people how much they need to raise the bid by. And a great tip is also to start to put in the first few bids so that people know that they can't start very much lower than this. Raffles are another great money raiser. Again, try for donated items, things like electronics, craft items, things like that. You can also do a 50-50 raffle, which allows you to just raffle off half of everything you raise. It's total profit if the items are donated. However, you do need to get approval from your local sheriff's department first. Tag on events are great. Um, they're the most efficient way to raise funds simply because it requires very little planning because they're already planned. You simply have to rent a booth and do something to bring people in. One of the best ones we've ever had was a young gentleman who raised $14,000 at a 3-day festival, and all he did was he baked Otis Spunkmeyer take and bake cookies, and the smell drew people over. He had set up a donation area, and he had storyboard, and he raised his funds fairly quickly. There are over 150 festivals and fairs around the state. You can visit this website to check it out and find one near you. At any event, traditional or tag-on donation stations, especially when accompanied by your storyboard, allow people to give easily. Games are a fun way for people to give and participate in helping you. You can also use little toys from Dollar Tree as prizes. People love to win anything. Events you don't have to do yourself are great. These are events held on your behalf by others, and the work is done by them. The profits go to you. So these are things that are already in place at your local sororities, your neighborhood associations, or garden clubs. And of course, the big annual fundraisers in your community that they are just looking for someone to give. Restaurant fundraising events, look around your community. Many of the restaurants, especially the local ones, love to help their community raise funds. Your friends and family do want to help you, but they may not live near you. Out of town events are great ways for them to help. There are more ideas in your fundraising manual that you received in your welcome packet. Humanity is adapting. We have to. COVID-19 has created a brave new world for us all, and the pandemic means that you will need to make some changes in how you fundraise. Now, social media and the appeal letter are more vital than ever. So use social media, resurrect the dying art of letter writing. You can send out the blessing calendar and save your change to family and friends by mail. Create, revive, and restore your connections to others. Reach out to your graduating classes. Unsettling times create nostalgia. A lot of high school and college classmates are wondering what happened to people they knew and if they're okay. Reach out, let them know what's going on, and just ask for help. You can do charity streams on YouTube or Twitch or other live streaming services. You can reconsider how you define your community and your relationship to your community. Everyone you have a connection with and everyone they have a connection with is your community. Reach out to them. Just because you cannot physically go out into the community doesn't mean you cannot reach out. Learn about software like Google Meet or Zoom and create events and community build. Now, I will tell you, this this one is truly just awe-inspiring. Their story is great. Miss Patsy is an amazing baker. She arranged to sell cakes outside a local store. She sold out quickly and had to take orders. She took so many orders, in fact, that she ended up getting written up in the local paper 2 times. She had to start her husband helping her to measure and decorate, and she had to use her neighbor's oven. However, the simple truth is that's not the best part of the slide. That's not the point of this slide. The point of this slide is the fact that human nature means we are very prideful just by the nature of being human. But, as her husband said, they've never asked anyone for help ever, but in this undertaking we must. You are in the fight for your life, and it is okay to use whatever tools you have in your arsenal. In this case, it's fundraising, it's asking people for their help. And there's nothing wrong with doing so. Like Mr. Clarence said, you have to ask for help. If you don't ask, you won't receive. Most people want to help, and asking personally is best, even if asking personally looks different than what you think it might be. It may be asking through a letter. It may be asking through friends and family. It may be asking through social media. But talk about the transplant candidate. Remind people how they know you and make that connection. Involve your community. Thank everyone because they don't have to help, but thank them for considering helping. We each create our own success. Your keys to success are telling your story effectively, developing a team to help you, redefine what an event can be, advertise appropriately, and think of new ways to reach your community. Your appeal letter is going to be your golden ticket. Remember these three simple things. Share your stories and needs far and wide. Multiple ways to make money in every event you hold, whether it's a traditional event, a tag-on event, or an online event. Tell your story. Make people connect with you. I know you can do it. I believe in you, and I am here to help. Here's my contact information if you need me. Have a good day and raise a lot of funds. Good luck.